Welcome to this live stream from windowsontheworld.net. Anyone who's followed our shows will know we cover the global perspective, the bigger picture, and how the narrative is being controlled. Everything really has to be taken down to a soundbite these days, and we try and edit down the information to make it quite simple. So, in spite of what's been going on the last 18 months, we have been putting out information describing exactly how everything works, or pretty exactly. We do have a massive archive of shows, and recently we've been looking at how the narrative is being controlled and how the public have been responding and how they seem to go around in circles. And we can see that by the reactions to what's going on. So even those people who think that they are part of the solution are actually part of the synthesis. In other words, you have a thesis and antithesis, which is could be two lies, it could be two sides, right and left, and the solution is way above it, and that has already been taken into account. So a lot of people who think they're actually working against it are in the one for it, and a lot of people don't get this. I've covered this in my shows such as COVID, protest, social engineers, how protest is socially engineered, and all the rest of it. So in spite of all that, we are getting into new areas now. What I really want to do over the next few weeks is get into solutions. And we do have a Discord server where you can join the chat. So that's at windowsontheworld.net. We also do not put our Sunday shows. Our main show is actually on a Sunday, 9:30 p.m. UK time at windowsontheworld.net, and the live shows page. And the whole archive is there on that live shows page of windowsontheworld.net. So you can find a huge archive of shows and a massive amount of information as to how the situation that's been unfolding over the last 18 months actually started, because I was doing talks on it for years around the UK. And we're talking really about the global action plan. You can go back into our art and find really useful information. I do it myself because obviously there's such a massive amount of stuff there, you can't remember it all. But over the next few weeks, as I said, lots of new stuff going to be uploaded, and some re-uploads as well to our YouTube channel. But mainly, we put our Sunday shows now on the Spreaker platform at windowsontheworld.net, which is live every Sunday night. You can go there, and all the shows are there in the archive on the live shows.net. You can see, and the links to all of those things, our Discord server, Odyssey, and everything else that you need to know is on that homepage at windowsontheworld.net. So we had a bit of trouble getting on today. I'm going to be talking to a friend in Northern Ireland, Kieran Boyle, who's been coming up with lots of ideas and looking for solutions. And streams are going to be, so I'm going to welcome Kieran to the stream. Kieran.
Hey, Mark.
Hello.
Nice to meet you again. See you again.
Great. Yeah. You're frozen up a bit, but it just looks like you should be all right. Your voice fine. So we've talked over the last 18 months, really, about what's been going on and the problems that we're going to be facing. The global coup is going on until 2025, and that's according to the World Bank. So how are we going to survive this? That's the question. So Kieran, you've been quite active and you've been doing a lot of different things since I spoke to you first. What are you doing at the moment? What's happening in Northern Ireland?
Well, what's happening in the whole country overall would be more important, Mark. There's protests happening. And just recently, back last Wednesday, we had one in Dublin. It was given a day's notice. People were asked at 10 p.m. the previous night, could they attend, because they were bringing in a discrimination act. That's what I call it, because they're going to discriminate against anyone that doesn't take the vaccination, which of course we know is on trial until 2023. So thousands of people came to Dublin. We were blocked off from the streets, walking up to the convention centre in Dublin, which the parasites were in making the decision. So the people came, in their thousands. And again, we're going to have another one on the 24th on outside the GPO in O'Connell Street. And we're hoping that thousands upon thousands turn up to this one, because we're camping there and we're not going home. People are not going home until these people come and listen to what we have to say and stop the segregation, because it's clearly a divide and conquer strategy, and we need it to stop right away. So anybody watching, if you know anybody from Ireland, please share this video and please encourage them to turn up on the 24th, because their children's future is at stake, and we ain't having that, Mark. They're actually vaccinating people in Strabane, young people from between 12 and 18, I think it is. I myself have been over there protesting it. I brought the yellow card system, the deaths and the adverse effects, and I showed people. I addressed the crowd. I told them, this is what's going to happen. This is what could happen. 20 people went home. So we saved 20 people, which is good. Now, the alley theatre in Strabane, they phoned the police on me. The police landed, 5 of them. They approached me. But what I want to talk to people here about is solutions. And once you know your rights, that is a solution. So the police asked me why I was there, and there was a report that I was being aggressive towards people. There was no aggression whatsoever. I addressed people. I'm passionate, and I tried to show them, and it worked. In a way, it worked, and a lot of people understood and turned and went home, which is good. The people that were vaccinating them, they sent someone out and told me that there's only 10 vaccines. They didn't tell me, they told everybody. There's only 10 vaccines left, so, you know, there's too many people here. And what I done was I shouted in, there's only 10 vaccines left, because I turned up with 2 other guys, 2 other patriots. We turned up and they saw us and they wanted to cut it, because they knew that we were showing everybody the yellow card system. Now, I told the police, I have every right to stand here peacefully on a public walkway. Therefore, you've no right to stop me. The police agreed. They agreed because it's the truth. It's the law. They then said they wanted my name and address. Me and a couple of patriots that were there told them, no, we haven't committed any crime. Therefore, you cannot be asking for any of our details. The police agreed with us and turned and walked away. So the latest is I got arrested, and I was aggressive towards people. I was shouting at people. I was being very pushy, and no, that's completely the opposite. So that is why the police could not do anything, Mark. So that's part of what we're doing. But I have a load of solutions for you.
Let me just come in there for a minute, because it's very interesting, that. And it does look like the police themselves are, well, inevitably going to get a bit fed up with this, because it's been going on a very long time. Now, this accusation of being aggressive is the default position of the police. So don't be enthusiastic. Retain your enthusiasm, and remember that you speak slowly to them. Don't raise your voice at all, even if you think it's just emphasizing the point. Because once you do that, you're being aggressive. And yeah, then all of that rubbish, which at that point then will appear. Well, that's great. So yeah, you've started to move again, Kieran. That's great. Your camera was frozen up. So we've got quite a few on here. It's a live stream, this. And it is in the middle of the day. To be sort of flexible when I broadcast at the moment, and we're going to be putting out a lot more of this. So really, yeah, we're solutions here, and our shows have always been about solutions. Really, they're pointing out the way that is going on. You have to be aware of how the system works, and unless you know how the system works, you can't do anything. So in other words, test as much as you like, but if you don't know what the plan is, and the ongoing plan until 2025, and of course nobody knows absolutely what that's going to be, because I think even the globalists are going to change it here and there, but we know generally what's going on. We've covered over the last few weeks exactly how this seems to be working and where it's going. We've covered it from the very start, and it's merely an acceleration of the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 Global Action Plan of Sustainable Development, which is control, management and reduction of population. So all the things that are happening now are really part of that. And the technocracy that they're trying to bring in, personally, I don't think is going to work. And I think the idea of these shows would be to talk about deregulation, how people can start forming groups. I know a lot of people who are doing it to be as under the radar, as off-grid as possible, and then you might reach some kind of critical mass. But just bleating about it on Facebook or even the protests are a good idea as long as they're there to achieve something. So in other words, next time you meet up, what's the goal for the next one? You can't just keep going asking for your freedoms back, because that is part of the controlled narrative. That's exactly what the system wants you to do, because it's all built in. That's why we have these fake protest groups, of course, and the most cartoonish and globalist one is Extinction Rebellion. But it doesn't really matter, because a lot of the people who are given a platform are there because they are gatekeepers. They don't have solutions. If you've got solutions, then don't go on a public platform. Do it with your own group. And that's what I see happening. And also, the preparation for this is going to be about food production, because we're already seeing that the fear-mongering is started for the public. The supermarket shelves are emptying because they've all been pinged. They've all been near somebody who might have had the virus that we may or may not believe exists, and they are now being told to quarantine. So this is the excuse. This is actually a cover story, I believe, for the slowing of the food supplies to introduce rationing. So all these things have got to be looked at very, very objectively. And that's what these shows are going to be about. So yes, Kieran, you have been doing quite a lot of different things over the past year and a half, and I've been keeping up with it. What, in your opinion, is the best strategy? You don't have to tell us what you're doing, because all the best strategies wouldn't do that. But just give us an idea, or give people an idea, what you think is a good way of getting things going locally, for instance.
Right. So we do know there's an agenda. Okay. So what is the agenda? We know bits of it. And as you say, the globalists may chop and change. But one thing is for sure, prices of food are going up. The hyperinflation may kick in around the winter time. I don't know. But so how do we prepare ourselves for hyperinflation? Hyperinflation will ensure that you can't pay your mortgage. You won't have a job. Therefore, the bank will come and take your home. So how are you going to survive? So people are talking about getting camper vans, Mark. And some of the people I know that know what they're talking about are saying a camper van can't be parked everywhere. Therefore, if you get yourself a big transit and you put a bed in it, you put a stove in it, you put a small heater in it, there's somewhere to live. If it comes at a stage where they become like Stalinist people and start throwing people out of their homes, at least you have a home. So I have that down there as a solution for living, surviving, right? People are talking about tents, but tents aren't good enough. You need something physical like that. Also, I'm just looking what I wrote down here. When the hyperinflation comes up, that means that poor people will become more poor. Therefore, they'll be living in poverty, starvation, all sorts of things. David Icke mentioned it on numerous occasions through the years about hyperinflation and how the Hunger Games society will become real. And that's where it's going. So people need to understand we can grow food, we can get a bit of land, we can meet people. I mean, I know some millionaires that are aware of the agenda. And a guy just recently gave us a bit of land to grow food, right? I've also been gathering up lots of tin stuff, lots of rice, lots of pasta for the last year. And it's all there. So people that are going in the shops now have one more chance to get as much of that stuff into the trolley and bring it home. Because whenever the prices go up, you won't be able to afford as much. And I think like the Hunger Games society is real. So we do that. We have somewhere to live. We also, what else have I got here? I think knowing your rights is a big one as well, Mark. So if somebody's at home, and we know that every mortgage is a fraud, we know it's a fraud. The way they work it, it's a fraud. They fractionally reserve any money they lend. So it means that they get 10 or 12 times the amount of what your mortgage costs. So legally, they're legally, it is legal under equity law what they're doing, but they're still pulling the wool over our eyes. So if we challenge these banks and we tell them what we know, we know what they're doing. So you cannot come near me and you cannot remove me from my home. I don't know what way that'll work, but I know that 2 Australians have already threatened to take the bank to the International Criminal Court, and the banks have backed down because apparently the International Criminal Court will go by the law. Therefore, their fraudulent mortgage would be exposed. So what's happened is these 2 guys have had their mortgage written off. So it's like if everybody wants to go, and there's certain people online that talk about equity law, and they're very good. I can't remember one that there's a guy really good. If somebody wants to write on there under your chat, some of the names of these guys, they are very good. You can use them strategies to survive for 5 years maybe, and then you've got all your options already prepared. Just recently, Mark, I'm not sure you know this, but not maybe a couple of years ago, the Rich Allen show was on, and the guy came on and he was reporting that a lot of big warehouses full of food were being bought off by billionaires. They were buying off massive warehouses full of food. Why? Because they knew the Hunger Games Society was on its way.
Yes, that's all good stuff, Kieran. Just could cover some of those points. I've actually lived in a camper van, and you can do it. I think Tinkle said living in a trailer, is that the solution? No, we're not talking about that as the solution. We're talking about practicalities, really. And of course, this police and crimes and sentencing bill contains a lot of very draconian law, which if brought in and enforced, that's the point, if it's enforced, it's going to be a problem. There already is a big restriction on normal camper vans. So having a stealth camper, as they call it, which is basically a converted van with maybe a perspex window in the roof, could be a good idea, and of course a wood burner. Now, I've lived in camper vans, and you can do it. It's not for everybody, but the point is this, that all these people with mortgages now and the hyperinflation you're talking about, we're going to see massive repossessions. So there has to be a plan B for people who want to be able to survive without actually killing themselves to do it, because you can do that. You can still live on quite a small amount of money. I've been doing it for years, absolutely years and years. And what's interesting about it is once you get used to it, you realize that most of the stuff that you used to buy, you just don't need. And that is a really good thing to think about at the moment, just conserving what you've got. Now, yeah, some of the other things you brought up, like the inflation, hyperinflation is always just around the corner, because this is the way that all of this stuff is controlled. Ultimately, the whole thing works as an interlocking device. And to these globalists, countries are merely part of an operating system, because everything now is this destructured global governance system, which is why there is absolutely no point in railing against the government, because the government are part of the operating system. All is they're doing is fulfilling orders, reading out their crib sheets, which have been given to them. So it doesn't really matter. This is the right and left thing. This is very low level distraction now. So politics, identity politics, issues of no importance, these are really just to be discarded now. And the whole thing is to, yes, maybe be able to form this idea of new societies, which I find really interesting, actually. I mean, we've had these globalist versions of new societies, but what about innovative thinkers actually getting together and really working on it, because a lot of people talk about it. We've been talking about it for years. I've had people talking about the financial system and different currencies and all the rest of it, but it might have to go back to something more basic than that. And that is really what I'd like to get into over the next few weeks. So if anyone wants to come on the show who's got ideas, just email me, info@windowsontheworld.net, and we can sort of talk about that. It was interesting what you were saying about food being bought off, and it's absolutely obvious, really, to anybody who can see a little bit of what's going on and the strategy. And you don't have to do like 25 years of research to understand that. You just have to look at what's being put out in the press, because the press is driving public opinion. So it's changed so much in the last 20 years. The press is there merely part of this big communitarian hive mind, which is there to demonize everybody who doesn't actually join in with the global action plan. So it's all been quite simple, and we've been covering it for a real long time. But that's, Kieran, Kieran says, it's good to see you, sir. Yeah, there's people on here. There's quite a few people on, actually. We've got quite a lot watching already. So this is fairly spontaneous. But yeah, I would say this idea of being able to live very cheaply, and people who haven't tried actually living in a camper van, if you're in a one-bedroom flat, then it's going to be no difference. A camper van's got a better view as well. So they do have a lot of advantages. And this is what this system, this globalist system, especially Agenda 21, is absolutely petrified of, because they don't want people living off the grid or being untracked and traced. You know, everything has to be tracked and traced, and everything has to be tied down to the system. And that is the Achilles heel of the globalists in a way. So people like Klaus Schwab and these, in my opinion, they're robotic type people. They haven't thought it through properly, because I don't believe what they're doing is actually going to work. I think it's going to fail. I mean, a lot of people are going to die, though. A lot of people are going to die, and there's going to be enormous pressure on those that do not comply. But as you're saying, if you do the right thing, there is much more chance of survival. So this is the start of that journey, if you like, because I think we've covered just about everything. I've said everything I need to say about how this system works. I can keep saying it and keep reinforcing the point, but there comes a time where let's just do it, because it's all rather energy draining, and energy harvesting and energy use and the draining off of energy is a big part of what this system's about. Remember, it's technocratic. It's harvesting your energy. So if you go to a protest, make sure you have a reason to be there. Have a good laugh. Well, maybe the reason to go to the protest is this is my leisure day out. This is my bit of leisure. And then I'm going to think about what I really have to do afterwards. Or go there as a networking opportunity to see if you can get a kind of few people on board with what you want to do. And you do need different skills. So back to you, Kieran.
Well, there's something very important, Mark, that people aren't thinking about. The Highland Radio is a Donegal radio station, and they're pro-COVID. They're all COVID. They love COVID, right? And there was a guy on recently. He's the owner of the Mount Errigal. I think it's the Mount Errigal Hotel in Letterkenny. He said he will not discriminate. Anybody is welcome in his hotel. He will not discriminate. Now, they challenged him. They called him this, called him that. But it's discrimination. So if people know any business owners, any bar owners, any hotel owners, they need to get in touch with them. And I'm sorry, folks, I had to use my phone. They need to get in touch with these people and explain to them what's going on, explain to them about the discrimination. It's a bit like Nazi Germany, where the yellow star was on people, secluding them, isolating them from society. So these people need supported, Mark. This guy needs all the support from everybody. Go to that hotel when you're in Donegal, support the man and pay, whatever it is. These people are the ones that are fighting back as well. So people aren't understanding that there's a lot of businesses that people with a business mind know that they're going to lose a lot of money if they start discriminating against people. Therefore, we need to support the people that want us and will accept us, because we ain't, it's not the plague we're talking about. We're not talking about You touch somebody and they die. It's not the Twilight Zone we're living in. It looks like the Twilight Zone, but let's have common sense. Let's talk to everybody, talk to our neighbours. I'm seeing a lot of people catching on, Mark, and in my area, they're actually listening to me. So it's good. But you know, all these people that walked away from the vaccine centre, they're asking me, what am I going to do? How am I going to travel? How am I going to do this, do that? I says, sit back and wait. That's all I'm saying to people. Plan your strategies and sit back and wait and watch what happens. There's no need to rush for a vaccination that hasn't been tested, folks. You need to just sit back, watch what's going on, and prepare yourselves mentally and physically. I mean, exercise is good, martial arts is good, all these things you're going to need moving forward, because the zombies aren't going to go away, folks. The zombies are going to be coming and attacking people like us. So let's be prepared. Combat and everything needs to be in your mind, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. Well, it's funny in a way, isn't it? Because years ago, there was all these people called preppers. And in actual fact, they were doing the right thing, but just not at the right time. But now is the right time for all that. So anyone who has been sort of stockpiling and planning, well, they probably do have a bit of an advantage. But what I would say to people out there, because I'm one of you, I've got right out of the system, I was self-employed for 30 years, is that you have nothing to lose now. Everything will be taken under this new system, because this system is intolerant and wants you in a particular place. And that particular place is dependent. That particular place is all about depopulation and strict management of population. And really, businesses have been destroyed over the past 18 months. And all over the world. So there's people in much poorer countries than the UK who are suffering even more. Yet in the so-called poorer countries, there is more of a support network, or appears to be, which is quite interesting. And that network isn't really there in the UK and many parts of Europe, because people tend to be more individualistic, not individualistic in their thinking, which is sad, but they like to be self-contained. And I'm not really talking about collectivism here. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about forming alliances which are beneficial to all parties, keeping it like that. I think that's going to be really important, because this is going to go on until 2025. The World Bank have said so. The information we've put out over the last few weeks about body storage facilities, those contracts are out until 2025. So what we're going to see, I think, very soon happening is a lot of deaths, and those deaths are going to be blamed on the unvaccinated. So what you're saying is absolutely right. And so I think it's time that people did form these tight-knit alliances. A lot of people who listen to this show, for instance, are quite individualistic. You know, a lot of them say, well, I don't talk to anyone anymore, you know, but that's why I set up the Discord server, really, which you can get into at winnersontheworld.net, because it's a little hub, if you like, a community hub, to use the globalist term, for people who want to share ideas and maybe want to have a private chat. It's very useful for that. And those things, I think, are very good for support networks. But the real planning now has to start. So I'm at a point where I want to do that. And I think that that's the sort of information I'd like to be putting out over the next few weeks. And we want to keep this fairly short. We're going to be doing quite a lot of these. And they'll be different from the Sunday shows. I'll have you on every week or two, Kieran, and we can chat and come up with ideas, because we just had this idea today to do this. Because the thing is, over the past few weeks, I've not been getting despondent about putting the information out, but the information is already known to the people who listen to the show. And on sort of platforms like YouTube, we're so restricted that we can't even say what we want on there. So that's why we've gone to these smaller platforms like Odyssey, where I upload the Sunday shows, but the Sunday shows are all at winnersontheworld.net live shows page. I know I keep reiterating it, but there is a massive archive there. And what I'd like to do now is sort of depart from that and get on with other things. And maybe, anyone who's got something to say about surviving, ideas, just general ideas, really. You don't have to give away your secrets. Come on the show, because I think that's a bit more uplifting than being gaslighted by the media and then trying to respond and say it's not true and we've found out you're all wrong, you're all lying again. Well, we know that, but there's only one narrative, and that narrative going forward is very obvious and very transparent to the people who can actually see through it. And those who can't are going to be a problem. Those people who still believe that the state has their best interests at heart are going to be the biggest problem. They are going to absolutely freak out. And I think that's what you're talking about, Kieran.
Mark, I would also, they're going to freak out. Nostradamus talked about a zombie apocalypse. Well, a lot of people I know are going off their heads. They're not really compos mentis as they used to be. And you notice that, you can see in there.
You've gone sideways.
Sorry, that's my daughter ringing, folks. I had to use my phone, but she knows I'm on here, so I'm going to kill her. But also, I was thinking there, we have forest schools for children. So every week we're bringing them out into nature, and we're teaching them. We're teaching them how to survive, teaching them what they can eat, and what kind of plants and things that are there for cures for cancer. There's actually a lot of cures out there.
Yes.
That's my daughter again. There's a lot of cures out there, Mark, and people can use that for the food shortages as well, because there's a friend of mine making nettle soup, and he's using all these herbs that you can get in the back garden, and you can feed yourself. You know, so
that's a really good point, because
you have absolutely no money. That's the way to do it.
Simple things like trying to get wild honey, because that is such an insulation against illness. Ginger, honey, these sort of basic things. I mean, I don't want to turn into some kind of sort of afternoon chat show talking about irrelevant things, but I think that was relevant, because these things that keep your immune system up are really important, actually. And to be run down at the moment or to show signs of COVID is not a good idea, because COVID has many, 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 many symptoms. And I think that's an important point too. But survival techniques, the time would be COVID, a good idea. Mind, body and soul.
Your sound's very low, Mark.
Is it? My sound is low. Oh, right.
Slow at the minute. Sorry, I'm using a phone, so it's probably my phone as well. I don't know.
Well, I'm quite near the microphone, so it shouldn't be too bad.
Everybody hearing Mark okay, yeah?
Can everybody hear me out there?
So, Mark, people are talking about getting walkie-talkies. You know, them
good idea.
That
I know people who are doing that.
Batteries. Yeah, batteries. Battery operated. Yeah. Get your batteries in. They're probably going to turn the electric off as well. If they turn the electric off,
there are going to be power cuts. There's going to be rationing of everything. That's what this whole system is all about. The rationing of everything, getting you used to being complete. In countries where they do have power cuts, they do have backups and huge batteries, which can be used as well as generators. So all these things are worth thinking about. If you're going to get a camper van, get yourself a little generator, and you'll be surprised how much money you can save. I lived in a camper van for 3 or 4 months at a time, and it's not as bad as people think. In actual fact, if you decide to save money and do that, you'll be very surprised what you can achieve and how much fun it is, actually. I mean, I know they're trying to stop it, but I think this is going to be interesting, because if there's a huge amount of people taking to camper vans, it's going to be a bit of a problem for them. This is why they're restricting travelers now, because obviously they're getting ready for the non-travelers who are going to be travelers. That's what this is about. They're not actually restricting these gypsy travelers for no reason. They're doing it because they know that's going to be the majority of certain places in the country are going to start taking to the road. This is what the whole closing the roads down is for. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So while Kieran's doing that, just have a look at some of the recent shows we've been doing. We did a great one, Jam for Freedom. We did a show with Gonzalo Correa and Campbell from Jam for Freedom. They're just musicians going around doing gigs. And I think that's a great thing to do, because music is a good unifying thing. I mean, how many times do you want to hear people say the same old thing? Like, take your masks off, take your freedoms back. the government's corrupt, COVID-19 is a scam. How many times do you need to hear this? You don't need to hear it again. Once you've heard it once, well, you know it really. I mean, what I do find interesting is the deep information behind it all. The philosophy behind what is going on is really what I like to study, because once you know the mindset of these people, then you know your enemy. Know thine enemy. Are they the enemy? A lot of people out there are still into this new age idea that they're not the enemy. Well, they've designated you as the enemy. They've actually declared war on you, because we have inalienable rights since birth, and those have been taken away. So whatever you believe, whether you believe in God or whatever you believe in, those rights you had as a divine human being have been trashed by these autistic drones who want to impose drudgery and death upon you. It's very, very simple. And it's all written in historical documents. Yeah. Kieran, anything else?
Psychology, Mark. I'm reading a book called A State of Fear by Laura Dodsworth. Very good. And she explains about a program they're running called the Nudge program. So you can imagine it's about coercion. How are we going to manipulate and nudge people into what we want? And that's open. That's government. The government have, it's in the book. It's evidence. It's evidence that the plan from 2000 and about 5 years ago, they started the program. So, you know, you're preparing everybody for the ultimate one, which was the scamdemic. I bought these here, Mark. These here are lights, one battery. They operate with one battery, and you can get them in the pound shop or the dollar shop if any Americans are listening. And I bought 10 of them. So that's 20 lights. If they turn on,
I was using those in my camper.
There you go. We have light.
I was using those along.
We have whatever. You know, that's all we need to do.
Yeah. Well, once you take it down to simplicity, you don't need that.
You know,
much.
it's all helpful. Yeah. It's all about survival. Survival is the main key. This is the key of everything moving forward. Because people like David Icke, they're well prepared. They know what's coming. So, you know, we know what's coming. There's no excuse. You need to go and get stuff ready, folks, right away before the prices rise, and you can't do it. Because this is what me and Mark are trying to make clear to people. This will happen. All this stuff will happen. Therefore, you know it's going to happen, so you must act for your children's future. That's what you need to do. Remove them from school. One of my friends got a letter from the school talking about vaccinations. And in the small print, it says the children can choose for themselves. So you send your child to school, they're going to be manipulating them children. They have it all prepared and ready. So get your children out of school right away, folks. Because I'm certainly going to be bringing, I have 2 mothers to try and persuade, but I have a lot of plans there on how to do it. And one of them is kind of catching on. So the child won't be going to school if that's what they're going to do, and they will do it, Mark. It's for sure, 100%.
Yeah, you brought up some good points there. I mean, the psychology of all this is all there is. When war was declared on the 11th of March 2020, it took quite a while for it to sink in. But look how much time has elapsed and look what's going on. This is not going away at all. And the completion that they have is 2025. Remember, the global goals for sustainable development, the UN Global Action Plan, of which we talk much, was that everyone would be living in smart cities by 2050, or 2/3 of the world's population. Then they brought it down to 2025, I think, and now it's 2025. Sorry, they brought it to 2030 with the Sustainable Development Goals, but they're in a rush now, because if the wheels fall off this one, there's going to be big trouble, and they know that, which is why things are working through psychological warfare. Psychological warfare only works for a certain amount of time, unless the people who it's being inflicted on are absolutely compliant and unthinking. So that's the problem.
Mark, there is a lot of people. There is a lot of people where I'm from getting injured from the inoculation. Just yesterday, I heard one guy at 35 years old took a heart attack. Another guy at 41 took a stroke. Another guy who had the inoculation died 2 weeks later, and he's a year older than me. So, what's happening psychologically is people are getting damaged and they won't report it, or they won't tell people on social media. They're afraid in case people turn on them, because the BBC and the mainstream media are telling them anybody that challenges this are bad people. They don't care about your health. They're evil. So the people are afraid. That's really one of the main reasons people are not catching on a wider scale, because others won't say, they won't tell anybody.
That's very true. I mean, this fear thing is really down to people's belief in what they thought the system actually was, rather than what it actually is. And that's why I've been taking it apart in a very methodical kind of way and laying it out in a simple way and editing it, because it's a system like any other system. So there's a system that's been designed, and the goals of that system are very simple. They're not complicated. There's nothing complicated about what these people are doing. It's complicated to the public because they're given conflicting and nonsensical versions of what's going on. But if you know what's going on underneath it all and have read the documents, which you don't have to have read all of them because most of them say the same thing, this communitarian system and this psychological nudging has been going on in the UK since 2010 at least. It was happening before then, but it really got hold with the big society. But what we're seeing now is just a result of that. So this is the point. Only those who accept infiltration can be infiltrated. And that is the key point. There is no other way that anybody can be coerced into anything they don't want to do without their belief system being somehow swayed into it. So it's all about infiltration of the mind and infiltration of what is called the community. And the community now is a globalist hive mind, which is local. So the global to local agenda is what is known as community. And unfortunately, hundreds of thousands and millions of people in the UK have been infiltrated and coerced into this new system. And that is the problem. So it's all about coercion and infiltration. That's about it from me. Kieran, anything else you want to say? I think you've frozen up. Oh, you've gone sideways. Are you still there?
Just that, as I say, folks, everybody knows what's coming. So let's prepare and let's get a community of our own. There's millions of people around the world setting up groups. In Northern Ireland, there's loads of groups. There's loads of groups in the Republic of Ireland. Sorry?
No, it's fine. Just carry on. Yeah, carry on.
Me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear? Did everybody hear me? Yeah?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, so because we're never going to do this on our own, we need groups of people. So when you do a bit of network between groups of people, if you don't agree with them, that's okay. But we have to agree on one thing. We need to survive. Survival of the fittest, folks. Survival of the stronger people, because psychologically we're going to be really damaged when a lot of people die. We're going to be really badly damaged and traumatized. So we need to prepare ourselves, make peace with it. I have made peace with it. I know what's coming. I know certain family members that are sick, and I know what's coming. But I've prepared myself mentally that it's inevitable. So if it's inevitable, remember, when it happens, you need to understand that you knew it was coming and you made peace with it. And God works in mysterious ways, folks. So prepare.
Yeah, good stuff, Kieran. Despite you freezing up there, we can hear all the audio, so that's all we need to hear. So everybody out there, hope you enjoyed that. There's going to be more of these, trying to keep it upbeat. We do try and keep all our shows upbeat, and do go back into the archive, have a look, catch up on all that, and we'll see you soon on Windows on the World. Thanks, Kieran.
Mark, just before you
One
go,
more. Yeah.
this is a book that I wrote, looking at all the anomalies.
Well, you're frozen up, unfortunately, so we can't see it.
The COVID-19 fraud, and I'll be bringing them up to O'Connell Street in Dublin on Saturday, the 24th. So see you there, folks. God bless.
Thanks, Kieran. That was great. Thanks a lot. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We always get quite a lot of people listening straight away, which is fantastic. And I want to be doing more of these. I want to be motivated, because it's definitely the time for that. And I think I've said all I need to say in this. Thanks, everyone who's in chat. Thanks to everyone for their comments. And it's good to see the regulars in there and the new people and the comments, which are always very. So thanks a lot, everybody, and see you very soon. Sunday, 9:30 p.m. actually, windowsontheworld.net live. All the links on the homepage. Thanks a lot, Kieran. Cheers.